Hey everybody, welcome to Pop Culture Philosophers. I'm Rockin Robbie Billups, and it's time for my top 10 comics of the week. That's right everybody, thanks for checking out the video. I am Rockin Robbie Billups, and this is my top 10 comic books of the week for January 8th, 2020. It's an exciting new comic book day. Lots of excitement out this week. This is what I would recommend as my top 10 comics. Let's get right to it. At number 10, we've got Batman number 86 from DC Comics. Written by James Tynion IV, with artwork by Tony S. Daniel, inking by Danny Miki, coloring by Tomo Mori, and Clayton Cowles on the lettering. Batman number 86 is a great fresh start for Batman. Tom King has recently ended his extended run, and if you weren't digging on what Tom King did, or even if you did dig on what Tom King did, I highly encourage you to check out Batman number 86. It's a new story, a new direction, a new creative team. We got James Tynion IV coming on, and he's no stranger to Gotham. He's written books like Batman Eternal, that Detective Comics Rebirth run, which is phenomenal. If you've never read that, I highly encourage you to do so. So definitely trust the journey, the ongoing journey of Bruce Wayne with James Tynion. Then you throw in Tony Daniel. Tony Daniel is one of those rare breeds of artists who seems to only get better with age, like a fine wine. You added Mickey and Mori and Cowles. It's just a great creative team. A new direction on Batman. It does deal with some of the lingering effects from Tom King's run, a la the death of Alfred, the relationship with Catwoman. They're still there, but it feels different. It feels fresh. So what I like about this is what James Tynion has done. He's been able to take that ending of the Tom King run and turn it into his own story. He's got some character work that he's doing. Bruce is still dealing with the death of Alfred, and it's nice to get some actual impact and oomph there emotionally from Bruce and some of the other characters. You got familiar faces in different roles in this book, and it's really fun. Like I said, I trust James Tynion IV. The basic idea of this run is that Batman has this new vision for Gotham, right? He has this opportunity to rebuild Gotham, to actually put into play these plans that he's had for years and years and years, but he's always just kind of considered it a pipe dream. But he can design Gotham for his own good, for Gotham's own good, right? So there's some interesting stuff going on there. There's really nothing here that we haven't seen before, but I think it's going to be very refreshing for people who haven't really been digging in on the Tom King's Batman run. I think this one's going to be much more consistent. Like I said, that artwork by Daniel is fire. It's luscious. The coloring is bright. It's moody. It rains a lot in Gotham. I saw Comics Bookcase talk about that the other day on Twitter. It must rain every day in Gotham, right? But anyway, Batman number 86. It's a great issue, a great start to what seems to be a pretty fresh run. At number 9, we have Daphne Byrne, number 1, from DC Black Label. Written by Laura Marks, with artwork by Kelly Jones, coloring by Michelle Matson, and Rob Lee on the lettering. Daphne Byrne is the latest entry in the Hill House Comics line from Black Label. What it is it's Joe Hill, Stephen King's son, in his own right, a great writer, and a great horror writer at that. He's curating this line of horror comics. We've already had a few hits from this line, like Basket Full of Heads and the Dollhouse Family, which is absolutely fantastic. I'm sure we'll be talking about that in just a minute. But Daphne Byrne is a pretty cool, chilling, creepy, atmospheric ghost story. It's got classic horror artwork from Kelly Jones, the use of shadows, some great character work by the writer Laura Marks. Really did like this one. I thought it was pretty solid. It wasn't as strong of a start as something like Basket Full of Heads or Dollhouse Family, but it was still pretty solid. I love the artwork. It may not be for everybody, but it's creepy, it's atmospheric, it's got great character work, and it's got a little spooky. It's basically about this young woman whose father has recently died. Her mother is obsessed with contacting her dead husband from beyond the grave, so she's being taken by all these charlatans and all this kind of stuff. However, there is something spooky and creepy and supernatural going on. Voices pulling from the other side, especially towards Daphne Byrne. Really creepy stuff and a super fire cover. I absolutely loved it. It's my number 9 of the week. Definitely worth checking out. At number 8, we've got Venom number 22 from Marvel Comics, written by Donny Cates, with artwork by Mark Bagley and inking by Andy Owens, coloring by Frank Martin, and lettering by Clayton Cowles. Venom number 22 is the second part of the Venom Island story arc, and it's basically Venom meets Rambo. Seriously, it's super cool. Venom Island, of course, is referring to the island from the early 90s. It's like one of the earliest Venom stories where he takes Spider-Man on this island. He gets convinced that he's killed him, and he just lives on this island for a while. At least he does until Carnage shows up, right? So he goes back to that island because his symbiote is kind of infected with the Carnage symbiote, and this is a result from the end of Absolute Carnage. So it's really cool to see ramifications for that bleed out into Venom, to see what Donny Cates is doing, how he ties it in with this whole look at codependency and stuff like that he's been building up in Venom. Really cool stuff. Nice revelations. Some really slick artwork by Mark Bagley. Lately, he hasn't been turning out the best work of his career, but this is a very solid issue. I think is way better than issue number 21 as far as the artwork goes. The story flows, and like I said, it's Eddie Brock as Rambo, and you can't get better than that, right? He's just going through the jungle, fighting monsters. He's got all this military surplus gear and all kinds of craziness. Seriously, it's Eddie Brock meets Rambo, and I'm loving it. Donny Cates has been doing a standout job on Venom ever since he took over the book. Mark Bagley is the preeminent Venom artist, in my opinion. Absolutely love his take on the character. This was incredibly pleasing to me. It hits number 8 on the list this week. At number 7, we've got Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Number 2, from Boom Studios and IDW Publishing. Written by Ryan Parrott with artwork by Simone DeMeo, coloring by Walter Baiamonte, and lettering by Ed Dukeshire. This book is just exactly what it's supposed to be. Fun. This book is so much fun. If you're a Power Rangers fan, if you're a Turtles fan, and God forbid if you're a fan of both of them like I am, you are going to flip your lid for this book. It's got lots of great character interactions. It's really fun, highly kinetic and dynamic artwork, really flows very well. Ryan Parrott's been doing such a great job on the Power Rangers books of late. Some of the best Power Rangers stuff ever. Power Rangers is in the current comic books. Fantastic stuff. The Turtles' voices ring true. The Rangers' voices ring true. The threat is there. Tommy's infiltrating the Foot Clan. He's trying to save some kid from taking the wrong path. It's very cheesy. It's very 90s, but it's also very sleek and modern, and technically a really fire, slam bang, like I said, dynamic and kinetic comic book. Really fun stuff. It's the best of both worlds, and they really make it work, and it's got a really fun cliffhanger ending, and I cannot wait to see that develop even further. Number 7 on the list. At number 6, we've got Strange Skies over East Berlin, number 4, from Boom Studios. Written by Jeff Loveness, with artwork by Lissandro Esterin, coloring by Patricio Del Peche, and lettering by Steve Wands. This is the final issue of Strange Skies over East Berlin. This book has been amazing and fascinating and very compelling and engaging. I've loved it so much. It's set in the 70s. It's in East Berlin, so you got the Berlin Wall up. And, it's about espionage. It's about trust. It's about human emotion and connection. The ending, they really nail that ending because the book is set up to be kind of a cool, strange sci-fi book, right? So like some kind of UFO crashes. It goes over the Berlin Wall. It's in East Berlin. One of the West spies has to go back in there, even though he may have already been found out. He still has to go back in there and get information about this craft that crashed. So you got this cool sci-fi alien thing going on, but it's really about trust. It's really about human connection. It's such a great book. It was a great ending. The artwork is amazing. Lissandro does Redneck, and Redneck is really cool, and it's got a very gritty, raw, rough, frantic style. The style's completely different. You can totally tell that it's Esterin. However, the artwork with the coloring, it makes it a little more ethereal, a little bit more textured, and it really works. It really pops. It works so well for the book, capturing that melancholy tone or whatever. Melancholy tone. Really great stuff. Strange Skies over East Berlin. Another fantastic book from Boom. This is the final issue, and it did not disappoint. Number 6. At number 5, we have Ascender. Number 8, from Image Comics. Written by Jeff Lemire with artwork by Dustin Nguyen and Steve Wands on the lettering and design. Ascender is the sequel to Descender, and Descender was great. It's great sci-fi opus from Jeff Lemire and Dustin Nguyen. Amazing stuff. Ascender is basically the sequel, but it's a fantasy. It's a little bit more horror, a lot of fantasy in there, magic, vampires, stuff like that. It's such an amazing book. Jeff Lemire is just killing it right now. Ascender is definitely one of the reasons why. The story's got a lot of nuance to it. The characters, they're rich. You instantly relate to them, their struggles, their path. It really shines. The artwork is so beautiful, ethereal, beautiful watercolors. It's just absolutely astonishing. Ascender. Fantastic stuff. And like I said, number 8 is a fantastic issue. because it does build on that character work. It's got some really shocking revelations. It lets us know a little bit more about Mother, who's one of the villains in this book. If you've never read this stuff, I highly encourage you to do so. It's not necessary to have read Descender before, but I would highly encourage you to do so. And I can't imagine anything else that was like a sci-fi epic turning into a fantasy epic, but Ascender has done that flawlessly. Lemire, Wynn, and Wands, they're fantastic, and they're at the top of their game right now with this book. Number 5 on the list. At number 4, we have The Dollhouse Family. Number 3, from DC Black Label. Written by M.R. Carey, with layouts by Peter Gross, finishes by Vince Locke, and colors by Chris Peter, Todd Klein on the lettering. DC Black Label's been cranking out some really cool horror books on the Hill House line. Daphne Byrne debuted this week, but Dollhouse Family to me just still rises above as the best of the bunch. Dollhouse Family is definitely rooted in Victorian era horror, but it still has a modern flair and finish to it. The artwork definitely feels classic, it's textured, it's detailed. I absolutely love this book. It's telling one long, slow burn story, but every issue, in fact every page, is gripping, and I absolutely love it. I think Carey and Company are doing such a great job with this book. It's got creepy covers. Hill House, DC Black Label, they're winning right now. They're winning strong. Dollhouse Family is one of the reasons why. This book is so cool. It's about this girl who grew up and she's got this dollhouse, and sometimes she can actually shrink down and go play in that dollhouse, but there's something nefarious going on there, and the dollhouse follows her through her life, and now it's trying to get at her daughter. Really interesting stuff. Like I said, super spooky, weird, wild. Fans of things like Lock and Key, you're really going to like stuff like this. This is a great book. The Dollhouse Family, if you're a horror fan and you haven't checked it out yet, what's wrong with you? You totally have to. It made number 4 this week. At number 3, we've got X-Force number 5 from Marvel Comics, written by Benjamin Percy with artwork by Joshua Cassara, coloring by Dean White and Raquel Rosenberg, Joe Carmagna on the lettering, Tom Mueller on the design work. X-Force is probably the best Dawn of X book right now. If you would have asked me right before all these books launched after Hoxpox, I would have told you that for sure X-Men was going to be the big daddy, written by Hickman himself. However, Benjamin Percy has kind of upended Hickman's book just a little bit. This book feels the most connected, the most exciting, the most engaging, the most just like I said, exciting. Like if you love the excitement and the twists and turns of something like House of X and Powers of 10, you're really going to get that continuing in X-Force. It's got our favorite characters in there. This issue has a nice spotlight on Forge, some really great Wolverine scenes. In fact, there's one panel in there of Wolverine that may be one of my favorite Wolverine panels ever to date. I love it so much. The artwork is great. It's rich. It's textured. It's got beautiful colors. It's got a great sense of depth to it. But Benjamin Percy's really just becoming a superstar right now over at the X-Men. Very excited because of his work on X-Force to see what he's going to do with the Wolverine solo title. Now, I'm not trying to say sleep on Jonathan Hickman and what he's doing in the X-Men book proper, because that's been a fantastic book too, but X-Force is just exciting, engaging, enthralling. In other words that start with E that kind of get to that point, it's incredibly entertaining. That's what I should say. X-Force is probably one of the best X-Force books out there. I will say, though, the Milligan Allred stuff from back in the day is pretty fire. However, if you're going to read just one Dawn of X book, I highly encourage you to make it X-Force. At number 2, we have Gideon Falls, number 20, from Image Comics, written by Jeff Lemire with artwork by Andrea Sorrentino, coloring by Dave Stewart, and lettering by Steve Wands. Gideon Falls just continues to be a master class in how to create a comic book, how to make something imaginative and innovative all at the same time. This book is fire. It's amazing. It's creepy. It's atmospheric. It is incredibly effective at horror and being chilling, right? This book goes crazy bonkers. It takes horror. It takes science fiction, it takes fantasy, and it all merges it together in one exceptionally unique and distinct book. This book, there's not a book like this on the shelves. And I mentioned this in the weekly comic book review, but we are truly in a golden age, renaissance era for horror in comic books. This top 10 list alone this week, it's got 4 solid horror books in it. Gideon Falls has maintained being one of the absolute best books since it first started being published a couple years ago. So for 2 years running, it's been great. It starts 2020 near the top of the list. Gideon Falls, it just hardly gets better than this. This book is consistent. This book is challenging. It's intriguing. It's invigorating. You read this and you're like, wow, this makes you realize what you can actually do with the medium of comic books. And that's why it stands so tall and proud at number 2 this week. And at number 1, The Plot, number 4, from Vault Comics, written by Tim Daniel and Michael Morisi, with artwork by Joshua Hickson, coloring by Jordan Boyd, and lettering by Jim Campbell. This book is fantastic, and like I said, we had 4 outstanding horror comics on the top 10 this week, and that's number 1 right there. The Plot does such a great job of building up this horror element. It's very slow burn. It's very deep. It's very nuanced. It's also a lot of character work that's being done in this book. And the way that the character work and the way that the horror and the way that that's unfolding and what's actually happening plot-wise in the story and how that relates thematically to what's going on with the characters, it's flawless. It's perfect. Daniel and Morisi, they've been working together before, so they're continuing their collaboration, and I cannot wait to see more of this book. Fantastic stuff. The artwork by Hickson and Boyd, wow. Like I said, incredibly atmospheric, deep, dark, dank. It carries the necessary weight for this story. This book is fantastic. It's strong character work, really chilling atmospheric tales and takes. It's just absolutely fantastic. It does not get better than The Plot. Number 4. This week. I absolutely love it. It's my favorite comic book of the week, and it's been consistently one of my favorite comic books since it's been published. We are truly in a renaissance for horror comics right now. The Plot, Gideon Falls, Daphne Byrne, Dollhouse Family. 4 great horror comic books on my top 10. Fantastic stuff. If you have not read The Plot, I highly encourage you to do so. It's only on issue number 4. Pick up issues 1, 2, and 3 if you haven't checked them out already, or just wait for that trade. It's right around the corner coming soon. This is going to be a ongoing series now. Very excited to see this unfold. It's got great mystery, but really the book is anchored by the character work, by the family, by the journey that these characters are taking, and like I said, how that is juxtaposed against the actual unfolding plot in the book. The thematics and the plot, it all works so well. This is just one of the best comic books out there. One of the most nuanced and effective and masterful comics on shelves right now is The Plot. That's why it makes my number 1. So that's what I thought about my comics this week. What are you thinking? What are you loving? What are your top 10 comic books of the week? Let us know in the comments down below, and let's share what we love, and let's keep the conversation going. Thanks so much for checking out the video. Please be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And join us over at popculturephilosophers.com for podcasts and a whole lot more. I've been Rockin Robbie Billups. Thanks for rocking with us. Keep on reading.